Sword of Vermilion is one of those games that a lot of people probably own but don't know it, since it's on just about every Mega Drive collection released in the last 15 years. I'm playing it on Sega Mega Drive Collection for the PS2. I gave this game a little try when I first bought this collection in 2009, but didn't get very far, and didn't play again until recording this playthrough in 2018. First thing when starting a new game, I have to name my character. Problem: this guy has no canon name. I hate using my own name for this stuff, so I was stuck on this screen for a few minutes. He's Donk. We then get this game's backstory. The kingdom Ex-Calabria was invaded and destroyed by King Sarkon of Cartagena and his hordes. Ex-Calabria's king, Eric V, had his most trusted servant Blade escape with Eric's baby son and the Ring of Wisdom, an ancient family heirloom. As the castle burned down, Blade escapes to a distant village and raised Donk as his own. Sarkon dedicated all of the country's power to hunt the baby down, but 18 years later still hasn't found him. We then begin gameplay at the entrance of Wycliffe. Wycliffe? Wycliffe? I don't know. I really like its music. This game doesn't have an amazing soundtrack, but this one got stuck in my head in the way other downbeat video game tracks don't. Talking to other citizens has them tell Donk that Blade is dying. Blade's house is in the top left corner of town. A woman looking after him says his health deteriorated so fast that he couldn't do anything for him. Blade tells Donk the backstory we were just given, and that he hid the Ring of Wisdom in a cave near the village. The ring is the only thing that can save the world. Over the last 18 years he saved some money so I can arm myself for the quest. After telling Donk that he did indeed always think of him as his own son and asking him not to forget him, he dies. The woman downstairs sounds thrilled. Will she kill him? I go into the weapon shop and find that over 18 years, Blade saved up a grand total of 200 kim, enough for one set of leather armour. Thanks Dad. I buy a bronze sword and a small shield. One guy in town tells me the cave hiding the Ring of Wisdom is to the south and gives me a map of the area. Each town has a church, which is where you save the game or have the priest remove curses and poisons. While I was buying my pieces of equipment, they already buried Blade in the bottom right corner of town. Time to leave town and I get a random encounter before I can even move. It's just a lot of slimes. Right now all I can do is swing my sword with no good range. There's also a collision thing where only the side of you with the sword can actually cause damage. It's weird at first, but you get used to it. No victory screen, just booted back to the map with your experience and money. The world map is like a Phantasy Star dungeon, 3D in first person. You do have an overhead view on the left though, so you can see where you're going. Right now I'm just walking back and forth to grind a bit. The amount of enemies in your random encounters is also random, you can have up to 8. All of them are the same enemy too, no mixing enemy types. Another enemy type I get here is the Dog Kobold. I get 8 of them, and being level 1 I get swarmed and wiped out. Dying puts you back at the last church you visited, where before reviving you they loot your body for half of your money. For charity of course. Thankfully this game has the amount of experience needed for your next level up in the menu. We're still in a time where you don't always get that, where in half the RPGs you'd have to talk to a guy in the church just to know, and then go outside and get back to grinding. 6 minutes and I've reached level 2 at 90 XP and already made over half the money it took Blade 18 years to save up. I start heading a little further south for the grind and find the next tier of slime enemy, the Blue Jelly. In the end it took 10 minutes to make what Blade did in 2 decades, letting me buy that leather armour. At 320 XP I reach level 3. At this point I decide to move on to the cave. I buy some herbs to heal with and a candle. The cave is just a little south of town. It's pitch black, so first thing I do is use the candle to light it, and I waste it by accidentally leaving and have to light it again. It barely gives you anything to see on the map to the right too. Caves function in 3D, like the world map. After following the path around, I find a chest and open it to find a map. Here comes a big complaint. Simply opening a chest doesn't give you the item. You have to also select take in the menu to grab it. This meant I didn't take the first few items I found at first and had to come back and get them later when I figured it out. To be fair to myself, who else wouldn't assume when you open the chest that it gave you the item? I also find my first skeletons here. Like in the Phantasy Star videos, I'm not going to go into much detail with the dungeons. Since everything looks the same, this would just be a huge pain in the ass and incredibly boring to describe. In the top left corner of the map, there's an old man who has been waiting for me the last 18 years. Blade gave him the Ring of Wisdom to keep safe in here until Donk needed it. How come this guy gets no credit for staying in the cave doing nothing all this time? Only Blade gets remembered by history. I return to town where I now had the 400 kim to buy some bronze armour. Now I have the ring, a guy behind the weapon shop will give me the map of the route to the next town, Parma. Between Wycliffe and the cave is a road going west and then north. I just keep following the path north, reaching level 4 at 660 XP on the way. You can also run into NPCs in certain spots. This one just hints that I'm on the correct path to Parma. A little further past him is Parma. There are a lot of houses to enter and people to talk to, but not much interesting to repeat. There's a magic shop selling 2 spells, but I can't afford either of them right now. One NPC does tell me that the king has a ring like mine. A man by the fountain gives me a map of the area to the west. I enter the castle at the far north of town. An old guy says that the king's personality seems to have changed, but he may just be moody. I speak to the king, who tells me he does in fact have a ring, but he doesn't believe I'm powerful enough to take on Cartagena. He tells me to enter the cave of Troy near town and come back with the treasure of Troy inside, then he'll give me the ring. While walking around town, I go into the church to find that the church has changed its religion to avoid being taxed by the king. I leave town, head west to meet the next enemy type, bats. The weakest one here is the fruit bat. Time for more grinding. Once I have 400 Kim, I buy myself an iron sword. There are also chests that can be found on the world map, but once again I don't yet know I have to select take, so I don't empty them yet. About 10 minutes later I reach level 5 at 1540 XP. I use 800 Kim I raised to buy a sharp sword. 7 minutes later I built up 500 Kim for a silver shield. The man in the house to the left of the town entrance gives me a map of the east area when I talk to him. I decide I've done enough grinding in the west and head a screen east of the grind. I get my first of the flame enemy type, the Flamer. These deal more damage than any enemy I've fought so far. It's not long before I reach 3000 XP and level 6. Once I've raised over 1100 Kim, I return to town to buy some scale armour. That's me as best equipped as I can be at the moment. Time to keep heading east and deal with that cave. First encounter after leaving town is another new enemy, the Neophyte. These are the first enemies that can fire projectiles at me and don't have to just nudge me to death. After going east a few screens, rather than continuing east, there's this cave in the middle here. This is the Cave of Troy. Once again, I think I've picked up the map when I haven't. You'd think I noticed that the entire right side of the screen is still obscured. Because of bad planning, I entered here with no healing items, got worn down to 2 HP, and 7 skeletons thrown at me to finish me off. Despite losing half my money, I can still afford the Theros spell from the magic shop. While I can hold multiple spells, I can only have one equipped for use in battle at a time. Theros has a fireball circle around me until it hits an enemy. This time through I finally realise I need to select take to actually take the treasures from the chest. I also fight my first eyeball enemy. Now I know what I'm doing, I can finally get that map. About a minute later I reach level 7 with 6300 XP. In the top right corner of the second floor is the chest containing the treasure of Troy. Maps are per floor by the way, so when I reach a new floor I have to find another one. Time to go back to Parma. On my return I go to the magic shop and buy the spell Sangua for 800 Kim. This is the basic healing spell. I go back to the king and give him the treasure of Troy. He asks me if I forget about the ring and retire in this town, and he will not take no for an answer. He means it, the guards at the entrance won't let me leave town, so after spending a night at the inn, I go back in and talk to him again. He gets pissed off and reveals his true form, a blue dragon. For boss fights, the game goes into a side-scrolling mode where I have to walk towards the boss and keep hitting them. He doesn't do much damaging, just moving his head around. I keep hitting it until it gets cut off. Turns out no one knew the king was an imposter. To the right of the throne room I can go down some stairs into the dungeon to find the real king. He thanks me and also offers me the chance to settle down here as a member of his militia, only he lets me say no. He tells me to head to Watling for more information and gives me the Ring of Sky. Before I leave town, the guy in the house left at the entrance will give me a map covering the route to Watling. I head back towards the Cave of Troy but keep going east past it. On the next screen is the second tier of kobold enemy, the Coyote Kobold, 8 of them too, and I very nearly die. Also around here is the Red Glunk, third tier of slime enemies. There's a fork here. If I take the northernmost path east, at the very end is a chest containing a gem shield. Going back to the fork, I follow the path south which takes me to a screen with 4 other possible exits. On this screen I also reach level 8 for gaining 11,000 XP. The southernmost exit going east leads to the screen containing Watling. Not only is this another poor looking village, closer to Wycliffe than Parma, but every citizen here is old. I'm even allowed to stay at the inn for free. In a house in the top right corner, the old man inside tells me that he's only 24. A monster in Verlin's cave stole everyone's youth. He tells me the cave is to the north and gives me the map of that area. So I get heading north. On the way I find a lantern in a chest. These light up caves like the candles, but these never run out until I leave. Near the cave entrance I find a Needler, the lowest variant of the scorpion enemies. Taking damage from these gives you a good chance of being poisoned when you leave the battle, which is a pain. You really have to perfect your use of that sword to avoid being hit. A little north of Watling is the entrance to Verlin's cave. Just outside I find a second variant of the bat, the Cave Bat. Inside the cave there isn't much to find item wise aside from the 2 maps. We do have new enemies though, such as another new slime, Grey Ooze. I reach level 9 when I get 18,000 XP. A new enemy type? These. The weakest versions here are creepers. They have these little projectiles circling around them that I have to avoid. In this spot here I find some dude just chilling. He's the one who stole youth from Watling and he threatens to do the same to me. For this boss fight he transforms into the Grey Cyclops. He slowly inches towards me, charges electricity in his armpit and throws it at me. The damage it does is insane and it kills me. On my way back I reached 28,000 XP and got to level 10. This time I simply go into the fight with full health, brute force my way up to him, backing him in the corner and taking loads of damage and just keep swinging away until he dies. Just 10 HP left, one more hit would have done me. I return to Watling and everyone is back to normal. Previously old people before the curse have to stay old too. Talking to the guy in the corner house will now trigger the villagers to talk about the rings. One says that there are rings of both good and evil, and Cartagena has all the evil rings already. I'm told the closest town to here is Deepdale. I now have to pay my debt for all those free inn visits, which adds up to 3,200 kim. If I just didn't talk to the innkeeper, I wouldn't have had to pay it. The man outside the church gives me a map of the region. But that was the end of my recording. I don't know what happened. I must have gone to start the next recording for a while because my next lot of footage starts me in Deepdale's church. The town itself is a little southwest of Watling. Now I just have to piece together what I missed. I know I either bought a lot or died a lot because I went from about 7 grand at the end of the last recording to 500 at the beginning of this one. I bought the Volti spell, a basic lightning spell. I also bought a platinum shield which is like 4 shields stronger than the gem shield. I enter the castle and find that the king isn't in. So I leave and come back in to find out that the king also likes truffles, which are also found in a nearby cave, and someone in the castle gives me a map of the area surrounding it, so I set off west. Volti is rubbish by the way. It moves slow and in a straight line and doesn't seem to do much damage. Money wasted. You can also flee battles by just walking off screen by the way. 40,000 XP brings me up to level 11. On the way to that cave is the first of the Gorgon enemies, the Rattler. They do a lot of damage. I'm never making it far from town because my HP keeps falling and I don't want to use too much MP or healing items before I reach the cave, or I'm getting killed. Next time I finally make it to Bremen's cave with its 2 floors. In here I get my least favourite enemy type, the mushrooms, starting with the puffball. Utter bastards, only take worthwhile damage from magic. Any contact will poison you. I fight them now, but after a while, any XP from them just isn't worth the MP loss and poison, so I escape from them all later on. The truffles can be found on the 2nd floor in the middle left. Soon after I reach 56,000 XP and level 12. Back in Deepdale I go into the first house on the left. The man inside is actually the king in disguise. He blows said disguise on finding out I have truffles and will gladly swap the Ring of Wind for them. What if someone shady offered him truffles? Would he give the ring to them too? I buy myself some crystal armor for 4,500 kim. Outside the church, a man tells me the next town is Stowe to the east and gives me a map of that region. So it's time to get going in that direction. South and east, north through the top right corner, east, southeast corner, east, ignore the cave here and east again. Here I find the strongest of the slime enemies, the Black Glob. I get a bit cocky here and end up killed. On my way back to the screen I died on is the next tier up from the Neophyte, the Conjurer. On the screen I died I reached level 13 at 77,000 XP. This screen also has the next level of Gorgon, the Python. I keep going south, then east to finally find the screen with Stowe on it, the longest trek between towns so far. Just about everyone you talk to in this town brushes you off while telling you how busy they are. This is the first time with a fortune teller you can pay for vague hints. Even the king won't talk to me. I hate this castle by the way. Your walking speed is pretty slow already, and they went and made the path of the king a huge spiral that goes on forever. So I backtrack a little and go into that cave I skipped. 2 floors as usual. Another new enemy type debuts here, the Cyclops. Its weakest variant here is the Basher. Gotta be careful with these, they have the biggest defense so far, taking 6 sword swings each to kill right now. They're strong too, a single hit from them deals about 50 damage to me right now. I don't get too far before I take too much damage and a poisoning finishes me off. During my second visit I gain 100,000 XP and reach level 14. In the top right corner of the 2nd floor is a chest containing some skeleton armour, an upgrade over my scale armour. I haven't gone into detail on most of the treasures lying around in the world map or caves unless it's something I'll be using. But if you really want to know where and what they are, the website Mark's RPG Centre has a map of every area complete with treasure locations. That's what I was using so I didn't miss anything. In the top left corner of the 2nd floor there is a young girl who offers me the spell Sangios for 1,000 kim. Sangios is an amazing spell. It fully heals my HP and costs only 2 MP. For comparison, the weakest healing spell Sangua costs 6 MP. I couldn't believe they were giving me such a good spell so early. My current maximum MP is 122, meaning I'd have 61 castings of this at full MP. It meant I could easily get out of here without being killed. I return to the king in Stowe, who's since heard of me and my quest for the rings. He's about to give me his own ring until he sees my book of Sangios, which had recently been stolen, and assumes I'm the thief. He doesn't believe my innocence and even takes all my rings until I prove it. What a dick. Well, now I have to go back to that girl in the cave. Before leaving town I buy Aero, the weakest wind spell. I will not be buying every spell in the game because it's impossible. I have both a limited inventory and a limited amount of spells I can hold. The trek back to the girl was a pain without Sangios. I only had it for such a short amount of time, but it spoilt me. By the time I reach the girl again, I've used up all my MP. When I confront her over stealing the book, she asks me to believe her. When I don't, she reveals her true form as a blue demon. Both hands throw fireballs and if they hit, they'll carry me back to the opposite edge of the screen. They can be stopped by hitting them with my sword. Also, ducking will let me avoid the higher up ones. I just need to get up close to hit and it's easy. First the right arm gets destroyed, then a few hits later, she's defeated. When I talk to her after the fight, she tells me she makes a living stealing and selling, and that I've shown her the error of her ways. She then goes to Stowe to show how remorseful she is. I manage to leave the cave but die on the way back, taking me back to Stowe anyway. When I leave the church, the jaunty town music has been replaced by Wycliffe's downbeat theme and people are lying in the streets. The girl showed up in her demon form and attacked the town. Only the people outside though, those in houses remain blissfully unaware. I mean, yeah, it's an awful thing she did, but she did override this town's music with a better track, so she can't be all bad. She did attack the king and take my rings from him though, and then fled to Asti's cave. Before leaving town I buy the Copperos spell. It's the second level of the fire spell, an upgrade of the Theros. The man in the tavern will give a map to the area surrounding Asti's cave. The cave is to the west and then north a few screens. During this journey I meet the second tier of these, the Oozer. Killing these gets me the 140,000 experience I need to reach level 15. Something I never brought up until now, that was rare in RPGs of this time but common now, is that your HP and MP are fully refilled when you level up. A few more fights later I reach the entrance to Asti's cave. 2 floors as usual. In here I finally meet the second level of the skeleton enemy, the zombie. In the top right corner of the first floor is a royal shield, another upgrade over what I have now. That's the only notable treasure in here. The girl is found in the middle of the second floor. It's another long winding path to her. She's already told Sarkon that I'm about and collecting rings, and I have the repeat of the boss fight from before. Nothing's changed, and yet despite being a high level and starting the fight at full health, I get killed. It even happens a second time after I make the long trek back. When I get back a third time I see how close I am to leveling, so I just spin in circles near her so I can level up and get that free heal. A few minutes later I hit 180,000 XP and reach level 16. I still fucking die. I don't get what I was doing back then. I did it the first time in the first fight, why was I being so shit now? 4th attempt, die again. I wound up really hating this boss. I must have just been lucky in the first fight. Doesn't help that one fireball can remove over 200 HP at once. Attempt number 6, I finally get in close and take her down. It's easy when you get up close, but it's getting up close that's a problem. 50 straight minutes of making my way back to her just to get killed. Nightmare. With the rings retrieved, I make my way back. The king thanks me, but many townspeople are still injured from the attack. He asks me to visit the town Keltwick in the northeast and bring back a Dr. Basil to treat them. He also gives me a map of the Keltwick region. So I continue past Asti's cave and go east. This screen has the next flame enemy, the Melter. From this screen I follow the path north, east and reach the screen containing Keltwick. This screen introduces the third kobold enemy, the Hyena Kobold. I enter Keltwick and first thing I do is buy an alarm clock from the item shop. One of the guys in town complains about how lazy Basil is. From the magic shop I buy the Luminos spell, which lights up caves without the use of a candle or a lantern. I also buy Toxios, which heals me of poison. Upstairs at the inn is a guy struggling to stay awake, so I use the alarm clock, revealing him to be Dr. Basil. He starts getting ready to set off the store and I head back there myself. On my return the town has another new music track and everyone is healed. The king rewards me with the spell Sanguia, the next spell up from Sangua. He doesn't reward me with that amazing Sangios though because he's a twat, I shouldn't have even helped him. He tells me to go north past Keltwick to the town Malaga, but he also tells me to stop back at Keltwick on the way to thank Basil. On the way back I reached level 17 after reaching 240,000 XP. Back in Keltwick I learned that the king of Malaga died 2 years earlier and a new king still hasn't been selected. One woman says that a kid named Anselm has had his father be gone for several days. Anselm is the kid outside one of the houses. His dad went to Blazon's cave to find a poison shield for me. The guy next to him gives me a map of the Malaga region. From Keltwick I head west. On this screen is the next level of Scorpion, the Stinger. I go west another screen to reach Blazon's cave. Once again 2 floors. I find the Toadstool, next level from the Puffball. Also the Killer Bat, the second strongest of that type. Around the top right corner is a chest with emerald armour, a 2-point upgrade over the skeleton armour. Anselm's dad, Beowulf, is in the middle right of the first floor. He defected from Sarkon years ago and hid the poison shield in this cave. He went to get it for me after hearing about me, but he can't deal with the monsters, so he's going back to Keltwick. The second floor has 4 long straight paths from north to south. The one on the far right has the Mirage Sword at the end, finally letting me see that I bought a silver sword off screen in Deepdale. This is about a 20-point upgrade over that. The poison shield is in the one on the far left. It has 7 extra defense points over the royal shield. That's all that's noteworthy in here, so I head on back to Keltwick. I talk to Beowulf in his house. He tells me that to reach Malaga I need to go through a cave to the north and gives me the key that unlocks said cave. So the poison shield itself is optional, but you need to send Beowulf home to continue the game. I get heading north from Keltwick and then west to reach the entrance to the cave of Malaga. There's not much to talk about in here, just 1 floor and I need to use the dungeon key to unlock the door so I can reach the exit in the top left corner. Back on the world map I go north, leading to the screen containing Malaga. Nearby there's an old man saying that some guys named Far and Luther deceive. In the town itself, the soldiers are split on who they support between Far and Luther. From the weapon shop I buy some knight armour which has 30 more defense than the emerald armour. From the magic shop I buy Ares which allows me to instantly warp to the entrance of any town I visited before. I get a bit more info on these Far and Luther guys. Both are pushing to make themselves king, and though soldiers support one or the other, regular citizens believe either will ruin Malaga. The item shop has 3 worthless items, the vase, joke book and small bomb. I choose a small bomb but the shopkeeper says I can't afford it and instead he takes all swords and all my money, all 71 grand of it. To rub salt in, he pays me back with a shitty iron sword. You can't refuse this and you can't get your money back, but this was important as we'll find out much later. I sell off some old equipment I was hanging onto and get just enough to buy myself a golden sword. Not a bad upgrade, being another 33 attack points stronger than the Mirage sword I just got and lost, but that hit to my funds really hurts. I enter the castle and talk with the princess, Winifred. She says that the late king knew that Farah and Luther, 2 ministers, would aim for the throne after he was gone, so he gave the Ring of Water to a Bruno, who's been hiding in Harmony Cave ever since. Winifred gives me a map of that region. Farah and Luther can be found on either side of the castle, complaining about not being trusted with the ring. One of them at least tells me that Harmony Cave is to the east, which the princess failed to mention. After selling some old spells I won't be using anymore, I get going. I go east from town, east again, south and east to reach Harmony Cave. 2 floors once again. I meet Bruno pretty quickly, but he doesn't believe I am the donkey he's been waiting so long for. To prove I'm not a spy for Farah or Luther, he tells me to find the crown deeper in the cave that will make me King of Malaga. In the top right corner of the second floor is a chest containing the next shield up, the Phantom Shield. A little later I reach 300,000 XP and level 18. I then use the stairs in the middle left to reach a new area of the first floor. On the opposite side in the middle right is the crown. I take it back to Bruno, he apologises for being rude to me, gives me the Ring of Water and tells me I am now the King of Malaga. I return to Malaga and find the soldiers are now on my side now I'm king. In fact, even though I've just arrived, everybody loves Donk. I go back to Winifred who wants Donk to return to her after his journey is complete. The ministers aren't happy and disappear after I talk to them. A man in the bottom right tells me to go northeast to Barrow and gives me the map. So from Malaga, I take the upper east path, then north. A new flame enemy on this screen, the Scorcher. North again, east, and I've reached Barrow. An old guy tells me of 15,000 Kim being hidden in the cave of Burgundy to the southwest and gives me a map of that area. The other people here say that the town of Tadcaster is in danger, and one guy gives me the map of the Tadcaster region. But first that cave. From Barrow I go west, take the southern west path, then the middle south path to the cave of Burgundy. This is our first 3-floor cave. This 15 grand isn't in one place, it's split up. The next Gorgon enemy, the Cobra, makes its first appearance here. There's 2k on the first floor, 3k on the second. On the third floor is the second eyeball enemy, the Red Eye. The last of the money is on this floor, 2k in one chest and 8k in another. In the top left corner of this floor is the Graphite Sword, 16 points stronger than the Golden Sword. On the way back to town I reach level 19 when I get to 350,000 XP. After healing up in Barrow it's time to set off to Tadcaster. West from Barrow, the northern west path, west. On this screen is the second strongest of the Neophyte line, the Mage. West, ignore the maze, there's nothing in it, and go west and south to the screen with Tadcaster. Before I enter town I get the second Cyclops enemy, the Smasher. They still do huge damage on contact. When I enter town, everyone's shit scared of me and already knows my name. People are begging me not to torment them anymore. People in shops are fine with me though. I buy myself a diamond sword which has 38 more strength than the graphite sword, and the ultimate armor which has 39 more defense than the gold armor. It's not even the strongest armor, there's 3 more stronger than it. Finally I buy the knight shield which has 12 more defense than the phantom shield. So let's figure out why everyone's terrified of me. I go into the castle and talk to the king. Turns out yesterday a fake donk turned up, tricked the king into handing over his ring and then terrorised the town. When I exit the castle, the town is crawling with soldiers who mistake me for their master, who is staying in Darman's cave. When they realise I am the real donk, they trigger a fight against a group of zombies. On killing them, they're nice enough to reiterate their master's location and just dare me to take him on. Killing the soldiers in front of the townspeople proves to them that Donk's not a dick and it was an imposter. Then behind the fortune tellers will give me a map of the area surrounding Darman's cave. From Tadcaster I go west and north to find Darman's cave. Back to 2 floors here. The Fungo starts appearing here, the third level of the mushroom enemies. By this point I've completely given up on fighting them. In the top left corner of the first floor is the Grizzly Shield. I'm not using it though because it's a point weaker than the Knight Shield. I also start to meet ghouls here, the third skeleton enemy. Oddly enough, the 2 floors are separated by a section of the world map. It puts me in this small secluded section where I have to travel east to find the entrance to the second floor. The bottom left corner of the second floor has the Barbarian Sword, 25 points stronger than the Diamond Sword. In the bottom middle I find the Imposter. He's already sent the ring of Sun to Sarkon and reveals his true form, the Necromancer. He constantly summons skeletons and sends them at me. I just have to keep swinging and use those split seconds where one isn't in my face to inch forward. This is much easier than the previous boss. He'll try throwing an electric ball at me when I get close, but it doesn't help him and I beat him to death. The experience from this fight gets me to the 400,000 I need to reach level 20. When I return to Tadcaster, one woman missed the part where it turned out to be an imposter. An old man tells me I can reach the town Hellwig to the west and gives me another map. Most people are still thankful or apologetic for the situation. I think they just forgot to update to NPC lines, as the Queen is also behind on the situation. From Tadcaster I go west, west again and find the strongest kobold enemy, the Wolf Kobold. Go west again and north to reach Hellwig. I'm told that the village survives by mining gold from the nearby Methuen cave, and that Cartagena now uses slaves to mine that gold to fund their conquest, the slaves being all the men from this village. If you go into the inn and talk to one of the staff there, she'll ask if you're actually going to sleep in a comfy bed while her husband is in slave labour. If I say yes, she gets very pissed off and knocks me out with the frying pan, taking out half of my health. This RPG is generally very traditional tone-wise and straightforward, considering the time it's from, so any joke like that or Visangios prank always surprises me. A woman behind the inn gives me the map of the area surrounding Mephoin's cave. From Helwig I go south, west, meet the Slimer, the third variant of these, and take the southernmost west path to reach Mephoin's cave. 2 floors and no treasures at all aside from the 2 maps. This one is really straightforward. Go to the second floor, use the stairs at the southern end to reach a secluded section of the first, and find the miners. This one guy represents them all, and me visiting them frees them and somehow prevents Cartagena from ever coming after them again. On my way out I reach level 21 by gaining 460,000 XP. I return to Helwig and all the men are back. I talk to a man behind the magic shop who gives me the secret key for later. The woman behind the church gives me the map to the next town, Swaffham. An old woman behind the fortune tellers is lonely, being the only person in town without a significant other. She gives me a sketch of herself to show around to find someone interested. I finally cast Ares to walk back to Keltwick. Behind the church is a lonely old man, so I show him the sketch. He's interested and gives me a sketch of himself. If I talk to him again, he also tells me that by a lone tree to the north he buried a treasure and that I can have it. Said treasure is some crimson armour. It's actually 30 points weaker than the ultimate armour, but it recovers 5 HP for every step I take on the world map or in a dungeon. This is easily missable. If I didn't talk to him that second time and continued with the side quest, the crimson armour would be permanently unobtainable. I Ares back to Helwig and give the old woman the sketch. She decides she's going to write him a letter and in return gives me a dragon shield. 16 points stronger than the knight shield, it's the second strongest in the game. From Helwig I go south, west, north and meet the strongest bat enemy, the vampire bat. I go west, west again, west a third time and find the third tier of scorpion enemy, the injector. West once more to reach Swaffham. From the weapon shop I buy the ultimate sword, 36 points stronger than the barbarian sword but once again not the strongest sword in the game. I also buy diamond armour which is 24 points stronger than the ultimate armour. People in town talk about how greedy the king is. We're gonna see how. I go inside the castle and ask the king about the Ring of Earth. He says he'll only give it to me if I trade for the white crystal found in the Ivory Cave to the southeast. He also warns me of a dark demon guarding it before he gives me the key to the cave. Before I set off there, I walk back to Wycliffe to use its cheaper inn and walk back. From Swaffham, I go south to see what the world map looks like when I don't have the map of that area. I keep going south, east and find the strongest neophyte variant, the Wizard, along with the third Cyclops, the Crusher. One fight of these loses me half of my health. I actually have to give up this attempt and walk back to Wycliffe for a heal. In the corner of the screen I made it to last time, there's an old man who will give me a map of the area. I can also see that the Ivory Cave is on this screen, just one floor with a door at the entrance requiring that key. The demon is in the top left corner, but one space above him I spin in circles since I'm so close to a level up and a heal. Reaching 520,000 XP gets me to level 22. As I take one more step south, I'm automatically put in a fight with the Dark Demon. This doesn't last long, he jumps on top of me, breathes fire once and all my health just goes in seconds. On my way back I meet the strongest flame variant, the Incinerator. This time I try a different strategy. I stay in the bottom left corner and keep swinging. While I can still breathe fire on me, I'm so far back he can't make physical contact with me himself or my sword can hit him. I outdamage him and win, getting the white crystal. When I return to Swaffham, I buy the Carmine shield, 7 points stronger than the dragon shield and the strongest shield in the game. I give the king the white crystal, but the greedy bastards change his mind. He wants a red crystal now from the Ruby Cave to the southwest. He warns me of the blood demon there and gives me another key to get in. This time from Swaffham I go west, ignore the cave on this screen, go south and find the Ruby Cave. Back to 2 floors here and once again there's no treasures aside from the one I've come here for and the maps. A few fights in I reach the 575,000 XP for level 23. The blood demon is in this little spiral on the second floor. Same strategy as the dark demon kills it and gets me the red crystal. I give it to the king but he's still not done being a prick. He now wants the blue crystal from the sapphire cave to the west. Of course there's a grey demon to face and the key he gives me to get in. They do a really good job making you hate this guy. Not just the greed and constant fetch quests, but the fact his castle has that same spiral layout so it takes forever to get to him and leave, and the fact that you need the keys he gives you to get in, so you can't just do all 3 caves at first and give him the crystals at once. The Sapphire Cave is the one I passed earlier on the way to the Ruby Cave. This time we have 5 floors to slog through. The way this one works is I have to make my way down to the 5th floor and then find another set of stairs to begin a trek back up to the walled off area of the 2nd floor where the demon is. A few minutes in, I reach 630,000 XP for level 24. It takes a while to reach it, but in the top left corner of the 5th floor is the critical sword, 9 points stronger than the ultimate sword. While working my way back up the floors to the demon, I get too many encounters with 8 crushers and worn down to death. Next time I make it down to the 5th floor, then back up to the 2nd to find the grey demon. Same strategy as the other 2 when I had the blue crystal. Killing it also got me the 686,000 XP for level 25. On the way out I also find the Morel, the strongest of the mushroom enemy type. Even after giving the king all 3 crystals, he still tries to refuse to hand over the ring. That is until I apparently pull my sword out and he shits himself and gives me the Ring of Earth. Now I can leave this place and never have to deal with this arsehole again. From Swaffham I go south, south again, east, east again into an area with no map and into a cave. In here I go between the two floors and end up outside. My first fight out here gets me the 742,000 XP I need for level 26. Going north will take me to an old man who gives me a map of the area. With the map I can see many cave entrances around me. I go into the one west of where I found the old man. This one is just one floor and the exit is in the opposite corner to where I entered. From here I go south, east and into another cave. This one is once again two floors I'm cycling between. None of these has any treasure aside from the maps, by the way. In here is the third tier of eyeball enemy, the Zapai. This was the last of these caves and I'm back outside. I go east to find another town. It's the ruins of Excalabria, Donk's birthplace. There's one lone old man in one of the destroyed houses. This is Newt, one of King Eric's most loyal servants. He takes a look at the rings I've collected. He reveals to me that the greedy dickhead King of Swaffham gave me a fake Ring of Earth after all the busy work I did for him. I've gotta say, I do like how off-putting this music track is and how downbeat it is. I think the limited sound quality of the Mega Drive makes it sound quite creepy during those first few seconds. Actually off-putting in how downbeat it is, not like the way people claim fucking Lavender Town is creepy. So I'm pretty pissed off with that king. I reach 800,000 XP and level 27. Seriously, I could raise his entire town to the ground. Yeah, like that. The king remains, and before he dies, tells me that the hordes of Cartagena attacked after I left and took the real Ring of Earth. Good going, dickhead. No sympathy for him. Hey, do you think I could lure the armies of Cartagena to Stowe and as it's been destroyed swipe the Sangio spell back from the king? Too monstrous? I walk back to Excalabria and talk to Newt again. He tells me that there are still 3 rings left to find and Sarkon has them all. The Ring of Power he inherited, the Ring of Sun was stolen by my imposter, and the Ring of Earth he took from Swaffham. He tells me I can get more information in the next town on my way. But first I'm heading south into this area with no map, then west along several screens until I find the entrance to the secret cave. The secret key I got from a miner in Helwig opens doors in here. Just one floor, and at the middle right side of the cave is the Death Sword. It's very powerful, but it's also cursed, so I'm not equipping it. At least not until I left the cave and walked back to Wycliffe to heal. Cursed equipment prevents you from removing that piece of equipment and from healing. I also took the chance to take those items from chests I failed to at the beginning of the game. I return to Wycliffe, where I'm surprised that the villagers here have updated dialogue for my return. I have the priest remove the curse on the Death Sword. All that means is the Death Sword is unequipped. It's still cursed and equipping it again will curse me again, so I won't be doing that again. I walk back outside Excalabria and set off east to the next town. This area is also missing a map right now. During this I find my first Slurper, the strongest variant of these. I hover the trees until I find an old man who gives me the map of this area. Right after I find the strongest Gorgon enemy, the Anaconda. From here I go east, east again, east a third time, and I've reached Hastings. From the magic shop I buy Sangio, which heals all my HP, like Sangios. However, this costs 31 MP per casting, 15.5 times the amount it costs for Sangios. I also buy Terra Fisi, which for 25 MP kills all enemies on screen with an earthquake. A guy outside the inn mentions living in Swaffham before I left because he didn't like the king. Don't blame you, hope you're as happy that he's dead as I am. Others are concerned for me, as the Cartagenan searching for me is now common knowledge. An old man says he escaped the destruction of Excalabria and hid a treasure under a tree there. One guy says I need a pass to even enter Cartagena. Another old guy once served King Eric. He tells me that someone who stole something from me is actually an ally. One last guy says a spy from Cartagena came here looking for me earlier. I think nothing of it and go into the house in the top left corner. The woman inside is so honoured that royalty would visit that she makes me a meal. I leave town and find I've been poisoned. It's a stubborn poison too, items and spells can't remove it, nor can a priest. Outside of town I find the final Scorpion enemy, the fittingly named Poisoner. I head east, east again, reach level 28 from getting 854,000 XP and find a cave in the northeast corner of this screen. This is Wisby Cave, where I can find the cure for my poison. It has 2 floors to keep swapping between. I reach the spot where the digger plant, which will cure me, should be, but it's not there. I am very confused. The deal is that the plant doesn't spawn unless you talk to other villagers after you've been poisoned so they can tell you about the plant. The guy I was using didn't mention this, but that's just dumb. Cures for things don't become non-existent if the person who needs curing hasn't heard of it. Even if you say it's my fault for not talking to everyone again, what if this was a second playthrough and I already knew about the plant and didn't see the need to talk to everyone again? I just get fucked at having prior knowledge? Stupid. By the way, the final eyeball, the killer eye, is in here. In the end, the poison kills me. When I wake back in Hastings Church, one guy in there tells me that a path to Cartagena can be found in Barrow. This time I talk to a woman behind the church who tells me that no one lives in the house that I've been fed in. I confront the woman who brags about poisoning me before disappearing. I make sure I've been told about the plant this time. Before going back to the cave, I'm going to deal with the thing I was told about when I first reached Hastings, about an enemy being an ally. I walk to Malaga and talk to the man who took my money and swords for a joke item. He explains that he took them from me so he could forge the strongest sword in the game, the Sword of the Million. He was only a dick to me so that spies didn't suspect him. He has 20 points more than the Critical Sword. It's so odd that the item the game is named after has no plot relevance and is totally optional behind an obscure side quest. Imagine if the Ocarina of Time or something was completely optional and the title was still the same. I go back into the cave and this time the Digger plant spawns. I take it and cure myself. In the middle of the first floor is the Old Nick armour. It's cursed so I don't wear it. On my way out I also reach level 29 for gaining 910,000 XP. Once I leave I warp to Barrow. I hang around outside fighting enemies until I have 50,000 Kim. Then in town I walk directly right from the fence in front of the church and through the trees to find a man who'll sell me a pass to Cartagena for 50k. I then warp to Excalibria and search a spot left of the one tree here. This gets me Titania's Mirror. This will show me the full map of my current location if I don't already have the map. Time for the endgame. I head south from Hastings, south on the western path, south again, west, all the way around and east, east again. On this route is an old man who says that years ago he saw Donk's mother in Cartagena. On the next screen is the last town hidden in a huge spiral that takes forever to get through thanks to these random encounters. This is Cartagena. I must first show the guard my pass so I can enter. There are many women dotted around outside, all turned to stone. There's one guy in a house who tells me this. All the men were instead turned into soldiers or monsters. I enter the castle in the back, but Sarkon isn't home. Instead there's a guy who tells me exactly where he is, the Fool Cave, and transforms into a gold dragon. Last time I fought a dragon was the very first boss. One lunge from him took 500 HP from me, so I don't last long. There's no church in Cartagena for me to respawn at, but Ares can take me back. Since I warp, I don't lose health on the way back. I'm much more careful this time. He only hits me once and I kill him. With him dead, I talk to the man in the house who gives me the Fool Key and tells me it's to the east. The 25,000 XP I got from the dragon only kicks in once I leave town. 975,000 XP brings me to level 30. On leaving town, I find the strongest Cyclops enemy, the Obliterator. Killing these gets me the 999,999 XP to reach the final level, level 31. I now have no reason to fight enemies unless I need money for healing items. East of Cartagena is a series of long paths going north and south across 2 screens repeatedly. At the end of this long trek across just 2 screens is the entrance to Fool Cave, the final dungeon. Only 3 floors, but there's a lot to do in here. After using the Fool Key to get in, I go up and left some stairs to the 2nd floor, then north at the fork to the 3rd. Just around the corner here in the top middle is the Mirror of Atlas. This gives me every map in the game. You know, if I'd think to use it. I go back to the 2nd floor of where I came and at the fork go south. This also takes me to the 3rd floor, but in the bottom middle is a secret armour, with 26 more points than the diamond armour. It's the strongest in the game. I'm now not only fully levelled, but equipped as best I can be. I go back to the 1st floor the way I came, and in the bottom corner I'm reunited with Luther. He was the one who destroyed Swaffham. In that case I have no issue with him. But I do need to kill him, so let's get it over with. He takes the form of the Red Cyclops. Same strategy as the last one kills him, he barely damages me. He leaves behind a gold key used to open the door behind him. The door was guarding the Ring of Power. Not the Ring of Earth, the one he actually took from Swaffham. I finally think to use the Mirror of Atlas so this part of the script isn't a nightmare to write and keep track of. I go back to the southern part of the 3rd floor the way I came before for the secret armour. To the right of those stairs is more stairs, and then I go straight forward to end up back on the 1st floor. At the end of this short path is Far. He wants revenge for ruining his chances with Winifred I guess, and had Sarkon turn him into a monster. He's one of those 2-headed demons, but red. It gets close, but I managed to kill him. He was hiding a silver key and the door behind him held the Ring of Sun. I return to the 1st floor and go through the stairs west at the 1st fork, then straight south to the 3rd floor and right back to the 2nd. At the fork I go right and back to the 1st floor. Left from here is the woman who poisoned me in Hastings, but she's a child here using the sprite from the demon thing during the Stowe stuff. I guess they didn't want to make one more sprite for this one moment. She transforms into a red dragon. She takes 700 HP from me in one attack and then finishes me. The journey back is a nightmare by the way thanks to that maze before the cave entrance. The encounter it also seems to have ramped up for the endgame. After the long journey back I get killed again and have to repeat the journey again. Next time I kill her, she drops a bronze key that allows me to reclaim the Ring of Earth. That's all the rings in my possession, just Sarkon left. I go back through the stairs I went through previously and at this fork go straight north to the 3rd floor. It leads to a gate requiring a bronze key to some stairs taking me back to the 2nd floor. Next is a straight path south through a gate needing the silver key. The stairs here bring me back to the 1st floor where there's one last gate needing the gold key. Behind this door is Sarkon. He starts by calling himself Donk's stepfather, claiming to have married his mother. He demands my rings, saying yes doesn't really do anything, so I say no. He says it will break his mother's heart and asks him to reconsider, say no again to trigger the final boss fight. He starts off as simply a green palette swap of the Necromancer from earlier. Defeating this form transforms him into what I can only describe as a pair of giant pulsating writhing dicks with mouths that spit fire. I have to get close, get a couple hits in and back away before the fire hits me. When one takes enough hits, it will shrink a little. The each will shrink around 3 times before being destroyed. Take out both to finally defeat Sarkon. He says I have freed him from the thrall of evil. He says that both he and Eric slowly became evil while collecting the rings. Sarkon turned faster and killed Eric. Before he dies, he tells Donk that someone special is waiting for him in Cartagena. With Sarkon dead, all random encounters are removed, so it's an uneventful journey back. Cartagena is now fully populated again. The women are no longer petrified and the men are no longer monsters. Inside the castle are servants of Escalabria and Donk's mother. She says she was never Sarkon's wife. She refused and was turned to stone like the others. Be honest, did anyone expect her to have any role in this game or even be acknowledged? Considering the typical 80s and 90s RPG hero's habit of only having one parent mentioned? All I have to do to finish the game is get on the throne and use the rings. But you can still explore the world and visit old places. People don't say much, just Donk, you're the best. And so I use the 16 rings on the throne. They rise into the sky and stars shine down on Donk. Donk and his mother first decide to visit Wycliffe to visit Blade's grave. Donk rebuilds Escalabria as the heart of his new kingdom and marries Winifia. But the game does leave on a hint that the rings could always corrupt Donk, just like they did Eric and Sarkon. Sword of Vermilion is in the same boat as Altered Beast, where people tend to say it doesn't age well. And I get those opinions. It is kind of slow, the overworld can be a pain, the story is basic, and there's about 4 different environments in total. But what can I say? I enjoyed it in a similar way to other Floor games I enjoyed, like Orphan. I enjoyed making my way through the world and getting stronger. I like how it experimented with 4 different gameplay styles. I like the sort of downbeat but not totally miserable tone it has. It's by no means an amazing game or one of the best RPGs ever or anything, and I would never tell anyone to go out and buy a copy. But if you already have one of the thousands of collections this game is already on, I'd say give it a shot.